there's a certain level of vehemence, it seems to me, that's directed at me, directed at the president. You know, people talk about taking their country back. There's a certain racial component to this for some people. I don't think this is the thing, is a main driver, but for some, there's a racial animus.
Well, that was Attorney General Eric Holder speaking to ABC News over the weekend, suggesting some of the president's critics are just motivated by race. Earlier, I asked Glenn Beck for his take on that.
I am so deeply saddened by Eric Holder in the way he views his own office. He hasn't investigated the things that should be investigated. He is playing pure partisan politics here. This is the kind of thing that I'm talking about, where let's not be divisive anymore. Let's not be divisive anymore. For people to say that it's racist because we disagree with somebody's policies is nonsense. If you are judging a man by the content of his character, it's not racism. And by looking at the pattern of Eric Holder's character, I can tell you that he's not a guy that views his office with a high regard to justice.
To what extent do you think, because I know you study the administration and American politics in general, to what extent do you think Eric Holder speaks for President Obama? I mean, do you think they're tight? Do you think he's the hand of the king?
Yeah, I do. I think he's, have you ever seen anybody get away with as much stuff or let the other side get away with as much stuff? I've never seen that in American politics. I've never seen investigation after investigation after investigation. They're still not looking into the FBI. Nobody has talked to the Tea Party group in Houston, True the Vote. Nobody has talked to them in 15 months from the Justice Department. Mm-hmm. Now, how does that happen?
And you know, with all due respect to my colleague at ABC News who interviewed Mr. Holder, they didn't even touch on the IRS, Glenn. They didn't. It's so rare to get the Attorney General in an interview, and I said many times that would be my number one person in the world I'd like to interview is Eric Holder.
I would cuddle up with a gallon of Ben and Jerry's to watch that. I would be at home just why I would love that.
Save me some Cherry Garcia. But he's got him there, and he doesn't even ask him about the IRS controversy, Glenn. I mean, it's a dereliction. Once the president declared not a smidgen, the people who believe in him took that and moved on. Let me circle back to the race remark, though, because something else Eric Holder said was, you know, we need to sort of be able to have this adult conversation about race in this country. He was defending his remarks from a couple of years ago where he said we're a nation of cowards when it comes to race. And, of course, many of his critics said, oh, there he goes again. But what do you think about it? I mean, obviously, you had suggested that President Obama didn't like white people, and then you apologized for that, and you took it back, and you gave a full-throated apology for that remark. But do you think he had a point that we as a society are not capable of having an adult conversation about race roles in the truth?
Megan, I don't know Eric Holder at all, and quite honestly, I haven't paid attention to Eric Holder for quite some time because he doesn't have anything of value for me to hear. I know what he's going to say, so it doesn't have anything of value for me to hear. He's not saying anything new. With that being said, I think the American people are incredibly courageous. I think the only ones that I have seen, the ones who keep bringing race into it, are the ones who fought in the 1960s, one side or another, who lived through all of that. I'm 50. I didn't live through that. It was over by the time I got, by the time I became aware. My children don't look at race as an issue. We believe in Martin Luther King's statement of judge a man by the content of his character. It seems to me that there is this generation that lived through that period that just cannot let go of it. Either that or they're people Eric Holder's probably about my age. Either that or they have been raised to feel this way. I don't know, but I don't want to live in Eric Holder's world that where you believe that Americans are cowards, that they do hate each other for race reasons. I don't know those people. I know they exist, but I don't know those people.
Of course they exist.
That's not what America is.
Well, that's the thing. If he must be referring to some significant contingent in his mind, otherwise it wouldn't bear mentioning, and so that's why people have paid a lot of attention to this. Wait, I got to stand you by because we have to move on. We're going to have much more with Glenn tomorrow. But Glenn has a special movie theater event coming up on July 22nd. We Will Not Conform, a special presentation about Common Core. This ought to be interesting. Michelle Malkin's in it. Coming up.